In today's video, we're going to be looking at the ORB Revolution Expert Advisor by Mr. Haidar Lionel Haj Ali. So this bot originally caught my attention as I'm a massive fan of opening range breakouts. I personally have developed a whole bunch of different bots which follow a very similar strategy. So when I saw this one running on the NASDAQ, I was curious to see how he's taken a very tried and tested strategy and put his own spin on it. So let's dive into the sales page now and see how exactly this thing works and if it's a real strategy which could complement your portfolio. So looking here, he is giving a good explanation as to what an ORB is. He's saying that effectively it's a breakout system. He also apparently has a reversal style strategy in there too. At the same time, he also has a few prop firm specific settings, such as the ability to randomize trades, which is pretty critical if you ever want to use this in a prop firm. And there's no martingale, no grid, none of the strategies which could perhaps be quite risky to your account. Also, a pretty interesting thing that stood out is that it supports netting and hedging accounts. So that is neat. Like, I'm not so sure why you would need netting on more of an indice bot. Perhaps though, if you are looking to run it on currencies, because some US accounts only allow netting, not hedging, then it could be appropriate. And by writing that, we just simply know that it's not any sort of averaging in kind of buy, sell, grid bot, because usually all of those require an account which allows for hedging. So overall, looks like very much like an ORB from what I can see here so far. So if you guys don't know how an opening range breakout works, it's usually a pretty straightforward strategy where you'll look for some sort of pre-market range or early market range where you define a time period, and then you typically look for a high and a low of the pre-market or of a certain range of bars. And then most often you place a pending order at the high of this previous range or at the low of this previous range, and upon the breakout due to a market open volatility, you would generally enter a position and quickly get out using a trailing stop loss. There's a bunch of variations to this. Some folks prefer to use market orders because they don't want to have an order at the broker level. Some people will generally hold for a longer period of time, whereas others are true scalpers in the sense of it. So like I know, for instance, Rene Balke uses a range breakout EA, and I believe he holds to end of day once it breaks, whereas with most of my ORBs, I tend to be in and out pretty quickly because I like to capitalize on that market, that early market volatility. So going through some of the inputs here, we can see that it does have the right filters for an ORB. There's a range start, a range end. At the same time, there are some volatility filters here too, such as he is using a trend filter based on Bollinger Bands. He's using an ATR filter for volatility, and he's also using a minimum range size and a maximum range size. Why this makes me nervous is a lot of potential parameters here. So like a range breakout, you can make a ridiculously profitable strategy just with pending orders. You don't need to have a whole boatload of filters. And the fact that we're seeing like a potential minimum and maximum range size filters, we're seeing a breakout buffer, we're seeing modes, we're seeing ATRs, like there's a lot of different things that could potentially be over optimized here. So just one thing to keep in mind. Overall, it looks to be a real strategy. The equity curve, the video, all of this looks pretty serious, and from what we can see so far, is the out of sample performance is also quite good. So that looks pretty solid to me. One thing to note is that in order to get set files here, you do need to actually reach out to him. So that's why, like when I ran the default, I tried to match what he says is the default here, which is NASDAQ on the M5 risking 1% per trade. However, maybe he's updated the set file since then, and there's some more, like in-depth or detailed ways of running this particular bot. So if we go and look at the signal, it's pretty short so far, but it's real, and we can see that it looks to be more of a opening range breakout style, but more of a higher risk reward style. So we're seeing that the winners are generally quite a bit bigger than the losers. So I think he's really trying to capture those like big spikes. To date, the win rate has been quite high, but I would guess that if you run this over enough trades, most likely the win rate will be quite low, or it will be lower, just because anytime you have a high risk reward bot, you'll generally speaking see a lower win rate but a very high risk reward. So overall, it looks real, but it's just so short that we can't really make a super informed decision with just a handful of trades. Like right now, we have 15 trades here. Like you don't know anything with 15 trades. So I think to really kind of audit the signal in more detail, we probably need to see a few more trades just so we have a bit more statistical significance. He's really gone into detail here with his guide. Like, this is a great sign. The fact that he's going like this much into detail, and he's also talking about like he has a potential second trade here with a reversal trade. Like, this really shows that he's put care into this and that it's absolutely a real strategy. So there's something here. You never know if it's going to work long term, but at least it looks like it's real. There's no like smoke and mirrors, anything which is kind of sketchy going on. So it looks pretty solid too. He even has a website for it, which is pretty cool. So I guess now with the Lovable and the fact that you can pump out a website so quickly, it's made it so that a lot of folks are putting out websites. But overall, it looks pretty solid. He's also using Trader Waves, which is cool. This is from Dane Trades, who's a really great guy. So I know this guy, I know the software. So that's also kind of just neat to see. And in terms of partners, he has a fairly active IB as well, and he has a YouTube channel. So overall, we can quickly check out his YouTube channel too, just to see what's going on. Oh, and it looks to be that his YouTube channel is from a German guy, but his page here is from a French guy. So perhaps they're partners, they're working together or something like that. Yeah, hey, you never know, but it looks to be like they're real people and that there's something going on here. So all of that is great, because if you have an actual face behind it, that typically means that there's a higher likelihood that it will be a real system if somebody's willing to stand behind it and it's not all just anonymous. So I took the liberty of running a back test here, and I've zoomed out to the H1, but I initially ran it on the M5. And as we can see, it is presenting a profitable equity curve, but it's not presenting the smoothest one in the world. So that's why I was really looking for set files, but I couldn't seem to find any. So maybe if you were to reach out to this guy, he'd give you a little bit more information regarding what to expect. But it is, generally speaking, matching what I'm looking for here, which is a high risk reward style bot. That's how we have these big jumps. And if we look at the actual times too, if we go to the back test, we look at the times, we can see that most of them are trading at like opening range time. So 16:30, that is the New York market open, because it's 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. So I think it is trading how it should be trading, and it really is indeed presenting an opening range breakout style system. It's also, for the most part, using either a take profit or is using a time-based close to close the position, where it closes here at 20 o'clock, which would be, I believe that's 1 p.m. Eastern time. So it's more of a swing style opening range breakout. So this actually makes a lot of sense as to why he's saying it's potentially appropriate for prop firms. Because if you were to run more of a scalping opening range breakout, they're a bit harder to work with every prop firm. You have to be a bit more selective regarding which ones you run it on. But because he's doing more of a swing style here, he is clearly tracing a range and waiting for the breakout of that range. I can see this being very robust across prop firms. So finally, let's just quickly check out the inputs tab. We can see that it is indeed matching what we're seeing here. The range hours, yes. Range hour starts, 0, so it's a shorter range. Makes sense. There's a few different breakout filters here. Reversal trades, so there's potentially 2 trades. Obfuscation settings, so prop firm randomizer. Drawdown limiter settings. Okay, so there's a lot of settings going on here. So yeah, we can see it's doing exactly that. It's clearly a range breakout. So he's tracing a range, he's giving us the range that he's tracing, and he's waiting for the breakout of said range and closing end of day. It's actually very similar to Rene Balke's strategy. Like, there's a lot of similarities to that, just from what I can see and from what I know people running his strategy with. So most likely this would get you fairly good results long term. So overall, guys, it looks to be certainly a real strategy. The equity curve is not the most beautiful in the world, but it could be because he wants you to run it across a whole bunch of different pairs and kind of smooth out the broader equity curve, or perhaps at the same time, it's not necessarily the optimal settings, and by reaching out to the guy and getting set files, it could be more appropriate. But overall, it looks real. I'd be curious to see how it performs over the next few months. And the one risk is that there's so many filters and settings here, you could perhaps over-optimize the crap out of it. So you have to be a little bit careful there. But as long as you don't do that and you know that they developed it in a smart way, most likely it could be something interesting worth following. So guys, hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you in the next one.